Hello and welcome to another tabletop simulator game playthrough. Today we're playing Kobolds versus Goblins. This is a game designed, tested, built and played by a young gentleman named Max. I think he's 12 years old if I remember correctly. But him and his father put together a game and put it up onto Kickstarter, and it's got a nice roll and write mechanic, very simple mechanic to play, but fun to watch and enjoy. So let's kind of explain what Kobolds versus Goblins is. Just out of the rule book, life as a kobold is pretty harsh. As one of the monsters that's constantly used and abused by those with power, picked on by everyone and targeted by new adventurers looking to get stronger, it's just rough being a kobold. So I'll make a long story short. Your goal is to try to convince an army recruiter to join your cause, and to do that you have to earn skeleton pieces to kind of bribe him. And so in this game it's kind of a duel between two players, where one player is going to play as the goblin side, which is trying to recruit this big guy, and the other side are the kobolds trying to recruit this big guy. And to do so they need to have 30 total goblins on their little tracker sheet. Now in the real game this will be checked off with a marker, a dry erase marker, but we're going to use cubes for this particular game. And then you're going to be able to gain additional support by recruiting these little skull dudes. Alright, so how does the game play? Well, each player will roll 3 dice, and whoever has the most we're going to say recruiters will be the person who goes first. So that's the left side, that's the right side. If we roll the same, they'll re-roll. Alright, looks like the goblins get to go first. And so how this game works is on each of your turns you get to roll 3 dice unless you've recruited additional skeletons. And so we're just going to play through the turns. What you get to do is roll 3 dice, and you get to choose how many dice you want to set aside, or you can set aside them all if they're usable. They're usable as long as they have your icon, so in this particular case the goblin, and skeletons. So I can use both of those, so I'm just going to keep that roll, and I'm going to take 2 recruiters and 1 skeleton. Or sorry, 2 skeletons and 1 goblin. Alright, so then it turns over to this player. So this player can roll the dice, and if they have a usable die, such as this skeleton, they can set it to the side, and they can either keep that roll and just keep that skeleton recruited, or they can press their luck and roll the remaining 2 dice. But they have to get at least 1 die they can use off these rolling dice. So because they rolled 2 goblins, they have failed their turn and they don't get to recruit anything. So then it goes back to the goblin's turn. Roll the dice. We've got skeleton, skeleton, goblin. That sounds like exactly something this player wants. So they recruit 2 skeletons and a goblin. And back to the kobold's turn. Roll those dice. They have a kobold, they have a skeleton. They could press their luck and roll this, but there's a 33% chance they're going to roll that goblin. Are they going to press their luck? No, they're just going to grab a kobold and a skeleton and take the easy way out. Alright, so we'll go back to the goblin's turn. Give these dice a shake. Give them a roll. We have goblin, goblin, skeleton. That looks like something they might want to keep. So they have no need to re-roll. We go back to the kobold's turn. Roll those dice. Whoosh. So we have kobold, kobold, skeleton. That sounds like something that they might want. So kobold, kobold, skeleton. Alright, back to the goblin's turn. We have 3 skeletons. That looks like something they could put to use. So there's 1, 2, 3. So now that they've got a full skeleton bar, that means when we look at the rule book here, I know I can't show you the rule book, but I know how it works here. So once you have that one skeleton, they are now going to help you recruit. So you're going to get to roll an extra die on their turn. Yeah, each skeleton recruiter gives you an additional die. You can only have a maximum of 3. So we go back to the kobold's turn, roll those dice. We have kobold, skeleton, skeleton. That is useful. Now, if they really wanted to get more kobolds, they could choose not to take the skeletons, but they're going to take the skeletons. So now we go to the goblin's turn, and the goblins have 4 dice to roll now. So they've gained themselves an advantage by getting all those skeletons. And look, they've got 3 more skeletons, and they could press their luck by rolling that. They're going to risk it. They're going to roll that one. And they got a goblin, so it's a usable die. So they get 3 skeletons. 1, 2, I've got to move those over. I should have a magnet in place there, but I didn't. 3 skeletons and a kobold, or a goblin. Alright, go back to the goblins, or kobold's turn. They roll their dice. They've got goblin, goblin, goblin. They have failed their roll completely. They don't even get to press their luck. So we go back to the goblin's turn. Give these dice a shake. They have kobold, kobold, skeleton, skeleton. They can set aside 2 skeletons and roll the remaining 2 dice. They got 2 more skeletons, so we're just gonna make some more cubes here. So they got 4 skeletons. 1, 2, 3, 4. So on their next turn, they're going to have 5 dice. So they're certainly ramping up with these skeletons, but eventually they'll run out of skeletons to roll. We'll see what kind of effect that has on the game. So we take these 3 dice. Kobold's turn, they roll their dice. They've got kobold, skeleton, skeleton. They will keep that. So kobold. Now they're going to have a 4th die on their turn. And we go back to the goblin's turn, who now has 5 dice at their disposal. So they're a little bit better off. Keeping in mind they're running out of skeleton spots. So pretty soon skeleton is going to be a dead roll, pun intended. So they're just going to keep that roll. 2 goblins, 2 skeletons. So we go goblin, goblin, skeleton, skeleton, and off to the kobold, who now has 4 dice. Give those a roll. They've got skeleton, skeleton, or yep, 2 skeletons, 2 kobolds. They'll take that. They're still in the running. Goblins ain't won nothing yet. We go back to the goblin side, who's rolling all 5 dice, and they just don't really want skeletons much anymore, so they roll their dice. We've got 3 skeletons and a goblin, so we could take those 2. Actually, we're going to roll all 4, knowing that we'll probably roll 1 more skeleton. Yeah, so we're going to take a goblin, take a skeleton, and we could roll both of these dice, but we can only roll goblins now. We got a goblin, so we're not going to press our luck with the last one. We'll take the 3 goblins and the 1 skeleton. So their skeletons are now full, and 3 goblins. So we're kind of like that Yahtzee roll and place mechanic where you get to pick and hold dice until you don't hold them as well as you'd like. So here we go. Kobolds are going to roll those dice. So they've got 2 goblins, 2 kobolds. They're going to save their kobolds and re-roll the goblins, hoping that they get at least 1 die they can use. They got 4 kobolds. They'll take them all. So that was a nice little stretch there. Now you don't get any bonus for filling in a row of kobolds. Just your goal is to get to 30 before your opponent. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, 30. So we just have to fill in 3 rows. The 4th row, maybe it's there if you want a longer game. So now we go back to the goblins, who now have all 5 dice, and give those a roll. So we've got 3 goblins and 2 skeletons. They're going to press their luck, roll those skeletons. Got 1 more goblin. They're going to stop there and take their 4 goblins. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Take those, pop them on there. And we'll go back to the kobold's turn, who are still only at 4 dice. Actually, I forgot the goblin should have been at 6 dice, but here we go. Kobolds. They're going to press their luck with these 2 goblins. And they've got 2 skeletons, which they will take, and a kobold. Yeah, so they're catching up slowly. But now the goblin's going to remember to take their 6th die. And they get to roll all 6 of these, so they have still a whole die advantage. Roll those dice. So they've got absolutely nothing they can use. Their skeletons are full and they can't take kobolds, so that's actually a dead roll for them. Go back to the kobolds. Now's their chance. Now they only get 4 dice, so gotta take those away. Roll. We have pretty decent. We'll take that. 1 skeleton and 2 kobolds. We're not going to press our luck with that last one. We're not so far behind to worry about that yet, and maybe this guy will not roll so well. The goblins roll. They got a goblin. They're good. They're going to press their luck though. Roll again. Got a goblin. Do they want to press their luck some more or just take that roll? They're going to press their luck again. Press that luck. There. We'll take 3 goblins. That's a safe bet. So 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Go back to this player. They're still 1 short, so they still only get 4 dice. Maybe they can roll a skeleton now. Goblin, goblin, goblin's no good. They're going to take that kobold. This was a kobold before I rolled that die. And hope for a skeleton here. They got a skeleton and 2 kobolds. That was the best roll they could get, actually. So 1, 2, 3 kobolds and a skeleton. So now they get 5 dice on their next turn. The goblins are worried. They need to bribe. They need to find more ways to get their army growing. Ooh, that's a nice one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. They'll take that for sure. Just slap those on there. A little bit off, but it'll do. So the goblins are getting close to victory here. Kobolds now have 5 dice, so maybe they can catch up. Kobolds, they got a kobold. They could go for the skeleton, but they're actually going to re-roll all 4 dice. Press their luck. Take the kobold. Whoops. And they're going to press their luck on the next 3 dice. Keep on going. Find more kobolds. That they're going to take. So they get 1 skeleton and 4 kobolds. Is a good deal to them. Now they're in the running to be the first to build their army. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go back to the goblins who have the 6 dice. And give those a shake. The goblins have 1, 2, 3, 4. That seems like a fair bet for them. So they're going to take those 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. Goblins are doing all right. They only need 4 more for the win. So the kobolds are worried. Kobolds don't know what to do, but they've got 5 dice, so they can roll them. Got a kobold. Gonna ignore the skeletons and re-roll these 4 dice. Press their luck to the end. 3 kobolds and a skeleton. That's their best roll. So they will take that skeleton. They do have an advantage where they don't lose everything because they can still get skeletons. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Oh yeah. Goblins only need 4 for the win. Let's see what they do. They roll all 6 of their dice. They've got a goblin. They've got a goblin. They're going to press their luck. Try to win in this round. Roll. Goblin, goblin. There we go. So the last 4 goblins that are needed to make 30 end up on the board, and the goblins are victorious. Now, if they would have failed, this team could have rolled 5 kobolds and won the game. But it didn't quite happen this time, did it? And that is it. It's pretty simple, pretty fast to play a game of kobolds versus goblins made by a son and father team. And pretty impressive. They're already at halfway through their funding goal, I think. Or they're on a good start anyway. Just started today. And they're funding until December 26th. So Boxing Day. So if you want to support a new and young game designer who's just trying to break into the world, this is a pretty fun game to support. It's got some very cute comic-y art with the goblins and kobolds and skeletons and the big orc-like grunt and the mighty Bowser-like